Bien, buenas tardes, estimados colegas, amigas y amigos todos. Hoy día nos encontramos en el penúltimo día de actividades, que corresponde al inicio de nuestro cuarto módulo Desarrollo Espacial Nacional e Internacional, en esta versión 2020 del mes de la Aeronáutica y Espacio. Nuestro programa de hoy lo pueden observar en pantalla. En primer término contaremos con el director ejecutivo de COMPTIA Space Enterprise Council, Mr. David Logsdon, con el tema la carrera espacial hacia la carrera de datos, como la innovación en la industria espacial está impulsando la prosperidad económica. Un tema muy interesante para tener presente en nuestro país, que aún no tiene una institucionalidad sobre el espacio. Solo recordemos que de las más de 21.200 leyes existentes en Chile, ninguna tiene relación con la gestión espacial. Nuestro segundo expositor es el profesor asistente y jefe de la carrera de Ingeniería Civil Aeroespacial del Departamento de Ingeniería Mecánica de la Universidad de Concepción, ingeniero civil aeroespacial, el señor Alejandro López, que nos expondrá el tema System Engineering, ¿por qué es necesaria? Interesante tema que nos trae una vez más Alejandro y que les invito a escuchar y ver con detenimiento. Agradecemos desde ya a nuestros expositores que se encuentran a miles de kilómetros uno del otro, por su interés en participar en esta segunda versión del mes de la Ingeniería Aeronáutica y el Espacio, y así también les doy la bienvenida a todos los inscritos en esta sesión, que nos siguen apoyando con su presencia y colocan el marco a esta iniciativa de la especialidad Aeronáutica y Espacio. Antes de comenzar, reiterar las indicaciones sobre el desarrollo de esta sesión. Lo primero, señalarles que las preguntas se recibirán en el módulo QA, o preguntas y respuestas de esta plataforma, la que se encuentra en la parte baja de vuestra pantalla. Las preguntas se leerán y responderán al término de cada presentación, de modo que los micrófonos permanecerán apagados. Asimismo, al término de la jornada, recibirán en sus correos un link para responder una encuesta de opinión que desde ya agradecemos puedan contestar y nos entreguen sus sugerencias de temas para la siguiente versión. Muy bien, estamos en condiciones para iniciar las exposiciones y dejaré con ustedes a nuestro colega ingeniero aeronáutico, señor Rodrigo Suárez, para que continúe con la presentación de nuestro primer expositor.
Muchas gracias, Sergio. Muy buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos. Hoy día tengo el honor de presentar al señor director ejecutivo de COMPTIA Space Enterprise Council, el señor David Logsdon, quien, como decía Sergio, nos va a exponer el tema de la carrera espacial hacia la carrera de datos, o cómo la innovación en la industria espacial está impulsando la prosperidad económica. Desde ya les comento que la exposición de David va a ser en idioma inglés y les quiero comentar también que él está aquí gracias a un acuerdo que estamos empezando a hacer o a un contacto que ha hecho con la Asociación Chilena del Espacio Chile, eh, que tiene la idea, ¿no es cierto?, de ser un organismo integrador en el tema espacial y por supuesto tenemos relaciones directas y convenios con el Colegio de Ingenieros, así que estamos trabajando en conjunto en el tema del espacio. Bueno, les quiero comentar que David tiene dos cabezas en COMPTIA, es director ejecutivo del Consejo de Empresas Espaciales de COMPTIA y además es director senior del Consejo Federal de Adquisiciones de COMPTIA. Como director ejecutivo, ¿no es cierto?, dirige un consejo de 30 miembros centrado en la empresa espacial estadounidense y como director del Consejo Federal de Adquisición de COMPTIA trabaja en estrecha colaboración con las agencias federales, el Congreso y la Administración para ayudar a definir, delinear e implementar un marco de adquisición modernizado y orientado hacia el futuro que promueva la adopción de tecnologías emergentes. David es licenciado en Justicia Criminal de la Universidad de Delaware y tiene además una maestría en Gestión Política en la Universidad de George Washington. Él formó parte de la Junta Asesora Inaugural de los sistemas de posicionamiento, navegación y sincronización basada en el espacio. Actualmente, además, es miembro del Comité Asesor de Comercio Internacional del Departamento de Comercio en el ámbito aeroespacial, donde preside el subcomité del espacio de este consejo. Además, es líder de la industria espacial estadounidense para el diálogo de la industria de defensa entre Estados Unidos y Brasil. Y, como les decía hace un momento, ¿no?, nos va a exponer hoy día acerca de cómo entra la importancia del manejo de datos en su exposición de la carrera espacial hacia la carrera de los datos, o cómo la innovación en la industria espacial está impulsando la prosperidad económica. Así que sin más dilaciones, dejo con ustedes a David. David, the floor is yours, please. Welcome. We don't hear you.
Disculpe. Muchas gracias, Rodrigo y Sergio. Buenas tardes, mis amigos. Mi nombre es David Logsdon y trabajo para COMPTIA Space Enterprise Council. El Space Enterprise Council y Chile han trabajado juntas para ayudar a facilitar la cooperación especial entre Estados Unidos y Chile. En noviembre pasado, el Space Enterprise Council encabezó una misión comercial a Chile, donde conocimos a muchos de los líderes de la comunidad especial chilena. Gracias por esta oportunidad.
Muy bien, David. Gracias.
Secuente. So, oh, I'm doing this. Oh.
Yes, can you do that? Or?
Un momento, por favor. Okay.
Okay, it's coming. Good.
So to begin, a little bit about my organization. COMPTIA is the largest technology trade association in the United States. We have 2,500 members. We were established 20 years ago at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. NASA and the U.S. Department of Commerce wanted an organization in Washington, D.C. that would focus on the commercial space industry. I took over the Space Council 17 years ago and wanted to, since it had enterprise in its name, wanted to focus on the entire space enterprise. And that included commercial, civil, national security, and intel space. A little over 10 years ago, we moved to COMPTIA. We are most known up until recently for a series called A Day Without Space. And that focused on economic and national security impacts if our space-based satellite assets were compromised for any period of time, what type of impact that would have on several business verticals. I mentioned agriculture, public safety, finance, and what would happen to our military and their warfighting capabilities. I'll get in more into the Day Without Space momentarily. So we took a trade mission to Chile in November, and a small little action took place that really showed me the passion and the commitment and the love and the caring of the people of Chile. And this just set the tone for me in terms of the relationship that I was going to create with my counterparts in Chile. What you see on the screen is a note from a housekeeper at the hotel we were staying at. And it says that she saw a book on my night table. And she said, I realize reading is important to you. So she left me a bookmark of Chile, and it really touched my heart. And it really showed the potential for the relationship moving forward. And I still have that. I still have that bookmark. So I just mentioned that we took a trade mission to Chile in November. And we were the only U.S. group to take a trip to Chile in the November timeframe. As everybody on the phone and on the Zoom call today remembers, Chile was in the midst of riots. We have them here in the United States now. Who knew that we're going to have them in the United States? But we were the only U.S. group to not cancel our trip to Chile, and your government welcomed us with open arms. We were in Chile for 2 days. We met with the U.S. Embassy staff. We met with the head of Invest Chile, and then the assistant director of space from the Chilean Air Force, Colonel Sayas, who remains a good friend to this day. We met with the ministry, the head of project evaluations at the Ministry of Defense, Miguel Segala. And then we're honored to meet with the Undersecretary of Telecommunications, Pamela Guidi. Shortly thereafter, because of the success of the trade mission, both sides felt we needed to move forward. And so in April of this year, we signed an MOU with our good friends from Chile. So the 1960s brought us the so-called space race between the United States and Russia. What that space race did, it led to America becoming a global technology leader. In that decade alone, the 1960s, there were over 2,000 technologies that were developed by NASA that were rolled out into the private industry and commercialized. It really drove research and development within the United States. It created new markets, and the technology workforce alone for this great race. NASA had 420,000 employees, and at our Kennedy Space Center, we had 18,000. That's the same size as NASA's workforce in 2013, the entire workforce. And because we were in a space race, during the 60s, the United States had a risk-tolerant environment for space. We had a satellite program called Corona, and it collected intelligence and mapping imagery. There were 12 failures before a successful launch. I can't think of any program in any country right now that would allow 12 failures. But the space race did lead to a risk-tolerant environment that we need to see come back. Maybe not 12 failures, but we need to see a risk-tolerant environment to come back. R&D has always been directly tied to innovation. And as I mentioned, the 1960s was the golden age of research and development in the United States. But since the 70s, the spending in the United States for R&D has fallen off drastically. In the 60s, we were the #1 nation spending on R&D. Now we're not in the top 10. And the federal share of R&D is in the slowest level since 1953. R&D, and I know we have a lot of colleges on the line today, as you know, is the backbone to a competitive, knowledge-driven economy. It absolutely is. And the famous astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he stated that innovations in science and technology are the engines of the economy of the future. So true. So just a small snapshot of what R&D investment did for the United States and how it helped the American citizenry. R&D led to the creation of the Global Positioning System, GPS. And here in the United States, we have something called the National Science Foundation. They have grants every year that they allocate to colleges and universities. There was a $4.5 million grant to Stanford University to 2 students. So they took that 4.5 million, created a new algorithm, which became the Google search engine. So a lot can be done in terms of R&D funding and in terms of grant money. So you've probably heard the phrase, we're in the midst of a new space race, new space, space 2.0. I think that's very much a misnomer. We're in the midst of a global data race. The future of global competitiveness clearly will be data driven. A lot of that data comes from satellite platforms. And the importance of data has been known for centuries. Dating back to ancient Egypt, the famous library in Alexandria once held 700,000 manuscripts. And for 9 centuries, that library and the knowledge derived from that library helped elevate Egypt to a world power. The former Google CEO, Eric Schmidt, said, and this is a quote from 17 years ago, he said that we produce more data every day than we have from the beginning of civilization to the year 2003. And I would say we probably produce more data every hour now than we produce from the beginning of civilization to 2003. One of the leading areas for data is the so-called IoT, Internet of Things. Gartner, which is a technology management consulting firm here in the United States, said by now, 2020, there'll be 20 billion connected devices. All those devices are proliferating data. And in terms of data analytics and the job market, so you have all this data, but you don't have a workforce to analyze and take the data to knowledge to action. There's a shortage in the United States alone for 1.5 million data analytic managers. And as I mentioned, the future global competitiveness will be data driven. Many players now in the global data race. The countries that take this data for decision making and making it a core approach to doing business will be head and shoulders above others. They'll be taking that data to knowledge to action and incorporating that data to missions across several different business verticals. So the key to the data-driven ecosystem is, in fact, the innovation ecosystem. It's people, processes, and things. So the workforce, you have to have a well-trained workforce in order to compete in the global data race. Here in the States, we have an aging workforce. There was a report 16 years ago called Rising Above the Gathering Storm. It said that the baby boomers, 70 million baby boomers would retire by now. Only 40 million new workers would enter the workforce. So there's a clear shortage of workers and a clear shortage of workers in the technology workforce. Excuse me for a second. 45% of those workers are 50 years or older, like me. A quarter of them are eligible to retire. And there was a survey of 46 undergrads. And here in the States, and I know we have a lot of engineering students on the line here in the States, only 2.4% of the engineering students and 0.9% of the business students listed the United States government as the employment as a preferred choice. I am sure that we have a similar case in Chile. The engineers in Chile want to go into private industry and don't want to work for the Chilean government. But I think that can change. So I think everybody on the line has heard of Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is probably the most known in the United States innovation hotspot, but there are actually 21 regional innovation pockets across the United States. Your next speaker, Alejandro, and I were speaking the other day about innovation pockets in Chile. In the United States, we think of Santiago and Santiago alone, but in fact, as you know, the University of Concepcion has the potential to be a huge technology hub within Chile. And I think these technology hubs could spread throughout Chile. And in the United States, as you can see on the screen, we have 21, but the most well-known is Silicon Valley. But within Silicon Valley, workers at companies only stay at their jobs for a year and a half. So there's a lot of turnover. And when you compare salaries from the private industry, those first two salaries, and you see the salary that the US government pays for a similar job, you're making a heck of a lot more in the private industry. The US government has realized that, and they need to, they're trying to shrink that gap in terms of salary. So a couple different ways on how to attract new talent. And these are some of the recommendations we've made to the US government. So the US government has what are called advanced research project agencies. The Department of Energy and the Department of Defense have these advanced research project energies. This is where the cutting edge technology and cutting edge programs take place. But in the United States, we have 15 agencies that focus on R&D. So there's an opportunity for 13 more agencies to start focusing on these advanced technology programs. Those are the programs that the students and the young populace are interested in. They're not interested in programs that are going to take 5, 10, 20 years. There is also movement within the United States, within our federal agencies, to create chief data officers. As I mentioned, data is so critical to competitiveness. And we've made the recommendation, there's 26 federal agencies. We've made the recommendation that each of these federal agencies needs to have a chief data officer. We made that recommendation on Friday to the US Space Force. US Space Force has just been created a few months ago. They do not have a chief data officer. We spoke to a general who is in charge of the digital strategy, and she agreed that they need to create a chief data officer. So another part of the innovation ecosystem are processes and governance. There's a long history of success in terms of prizes and challenges in the United States. The first person to fly across the Atlantic, Charles Lindbergh, he did that because there was a multi-$1,000 prize that he won. And so the US government realized that a prize or a challenge was a way to incentivize cities to invest in the smart city movement. And so a few years ago, the Department of Transportation created a smart transportation challenge. $40 million for the winning city. So the city size, they thought they were only going to get 5 or 6 cities applying. They had 76 or 78. And so a lot of the more known cities, Austin, Texas, Portland, Oregon, Pittsburgh, Denver, were finalists, but the winning city was Columbus, Ohio. And so Columbus, Ohio won the 40 million, but Paul Allen from Microsoft put in an additional 10 million. And since the award was announced, $450 million more has poured into Columbus to drive their smart transportation efforts, and really are a smart city effort. And here's a snapshot of the challenge. There were, as I mentioned, 78 different cities across the United States. And it was truly a great success. So within the US government, back in through the 70s up through the 90s, there was an office called the Office of Technology Assessment. It focused on science and technology issues. It was independent. It created 800 reports, 10 reports a year. It had a budget of 20 million and it had 150 staffers. And you know your Congress very well. I know my Congress very well. Here in the United States, there's probably a handful of members of Congress that have any idea what's going on in the technology industry. So you could just imagine how valuable this office was to members of Congress. And you can, since 1995, there's been so many technology advancements. They're listed here. I would also include small sats and microsats. But the current environment that's driving everything is technology, data, and cybersecurity. So the young staffers in Congress realized that their members were not up to speed on technology issues. And so they took matters into their own hands. 4 years ago, they created what's called the Congressional Technology Staffer Association. It has staffers from 80 congressional offices, committees, and subcommittees, and each staffer is an expert on technology issues. They've done a series of roundtables, smart cities, IoTs, privacy, emerging tech, IP. We did, pre-COVID, we did a roundtable with them on satellite technology and emerging technology, how they're fusing together. So smart cities and communities. You've heard the term smart cities over and over again. I'd say the first smart city was created in Italy with the Renaissance, where they blended literature, art, and culture together to help drive innovation. Now smart cities are found throughout the globe. And a smart city includes transportation, public utilities, energy, that is layered with secure technology enabled by ubiquitous broadband connectivity, a lot of which comes from satellites and sensors, and it serves and benefits all citizens. So what is needed for the communities to move forward with smart initiatives? You have to do a gap analysis in terms of your technology capabilities. You have to understand your workforce. You have to understand what type of funding streams you have. You need a strategic architecture, which includes satellite capabilities. And you need an ROI if there are any pilot programs. So IoT in smart cities really a system of systems, all those various elements working together, cross-cutting. It's merging multiple data streams, analyzing data, and sharing it across departments real time. Broadband connectivity is critically important, and a lot of that broadband connectivity comes from satellites. In terms of GPS, it has revolutionized the agriculture industry in terms of precision agriculture. The average cost of a GPS unit has gone down tremendously. Growers report a 15% increase on crop inputs, and 10 to 17 billion dollars in grain alone is saved globally through the use of GPS. It's a game changer, has been a game changer, and a successful model on how enabling technology can help the entire community. So let's talk about Chile for a little bit. And I think this chart is key to how I see the growth of the space industry in Chile. as you can see, 20 years ago, there were probably about 3 million mobile units in Chile. Now we're up to about, we're over 135 million and growing. And now these mobile units are smart, and they need connectivity. A lot of them across business verticals will start blending and have been blending satellite imagery and GPS position, navigation, and timing, along with satellite connectivity. So there's a great opportunity to grow the space industry in Chile based on the growth of smart technology, which is being driven by the pent-up demand for telephony. So IoT in Chile. The South American IoT market alone is projected to reach 19 billion. I think that's 19 billion by 2023. And this is the IoT market. And Chile, from the figures I saw, is at about 3, 4, 5 billion of that market. This is the underlying opportunity to really grow the space market in Chile, because all these connected devices need to be connected somehow. And they are the devices, whether it's one of these or a pad or what have you, that are going to be integrating all these satellite services like imagery. And the sectors that are going to have the largest growth: manufacturing, agribusiness, smart cities across the board, health and management, and urban mobility. Now, I'm very excited about what is going to be the first deliverable coming out of the relationship between the Space Enterprise Council and Chile, and that is the first ever Chilean economy study. We have now, as of about 2 hours ago, finalized the questionnaires that will be going out to about 150 leading stakeholders throughout Chile. And it's going to take an in-depth look at the Chilean space economy, business vertical by business vertical, looking how Chile is currently utilizing satellite-based assets, and see where the future growth will be. And results will be, the study will be made available early next year. And I was fortunate enough to get this information from our friends from Invest Chile. This is the current economic activity in Chile. I think it's probably about a year old. You can see where the potential for the growth in the space industry is. It is growing relationships in the financial industry, personal services, retail, trade, manufacturing, mining, construction, infrastructure, agribusiness. There is a grand opportunity here to take what I call the data ecosystem, which includes the satellite-based platform, the data coming off the satellites, the data analytics making the data smart, the companies making the cyber companies making the data secure, and those companies that are fusing emerging technologies such as AI, such as automation, such as cloud computing, taking that bundle, presenting it to these different business verticals as a way to grow their business. There is a model there. I know companies, I was just speaking a few days ago to Microsoft Azure, and they plan to invest heavily in the Chilean market. So GPS alone, you can see the economic impact by business verticals. This is global data, and it is just astonishing what a space-based asset, what economic impact it could have, business vertical by business vertical. So I mentioned at the very beginning of my talk, we're known for our Day Without Space. We've actually trademarked the name, and we've done a series of events on Capitol Hill now, virtual webinars dating back 10 years on what it would mean to the economy and to our national security if there was a so-called day without space. So imagine in Chile, you woke up, you had no internet, smartphones didn't work, weather forecasts, which usually can range out 7 days. The weather forecasts were now 2 weeks to a month out. You couldn't do any retail transactions. If you wanted to fly anywhere, forget it. It's not going to happen. The father of GPS, Brad Parkinson, another Stanford University grad, said that dating back to 1983, there are over $55 billion per year in tangible benefits from GPS. And the former head of the United States Air Force Space Command, General Hayden, said that without satellites, at least for the United States, but also in Chile, you go back to World War II fighting capabilities. You go back to the industrial era warfare. So it would have a huge impact on the Ministry of Defense and the Air Force in Chile. So 2 charts previously, I showed the impact of GPS in terms of billions of dollars per business vertical. Now this chart shows if the GPS was out for a month, what type of potential losses you would see. So we've used this data over and over again within our Congress to advocate for big budgets for our space program. People generally do not pay attention to the space program and impacts it has on an economy. But once you tell them how much money will be lost if you take a program away, such as GPS, and you could show them that for the electronic industry, $250 million will be lost in a month, then they start to listen. So I'm getting to my concluding remarks, and I just want to say that the space economy is driven and really being driven by the pent-up demand for more data. And that's the so-called new space companies are really branding themselves as data companies that use space assets. And venture capitalists across the globe are interested in these companies because they see themselves as data companies, not so much as space companies. So the space ecosystem is not only launch, manufacturing, and services, but it very much is data analytics, cybersecurity, and emerging technologies. And I think data analytics, cybersecurity, and emerging technologies, when I learned of the Chilean marketplace, you have unique capabilities across the board. And in building up those capabilities, I believe you could be a global leader within the space community. And it is critically important to make those relationships across those business verticals where emerging technologies are already in use. The mining industry, automation and mining, that will help accelerate your space plans and your space architectures. And finally, I want to say that any nation that wants to build their space economy has to conduct consistent, well-articulated, well-planned, and timely outreach to those stakeholders. It's your government. it's your agencies and ministries, it's your business sector. Most importantly, since you're in the process of rewriting your constitution, it's getting the message across to the citizens that space is critical to growing the Chilean economy. Um, and it's critical to growing the Chilean economy. It's critically important to ensuring that the Chile has a state of the art workforce and a leading military. So with that, muchas gracias, mis amigos. I welcome any questions, and I think I saw a question come across. And I'm going to have Rodrigo translate it for me.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, David. We have a first question from Jaime Parra. He says, Dear David, the presidential candidates in USA, are they thinking in different programs for the development of these important technologies, or they think similarly? What do you think about it?
So the United States under the Trump administration has close ties with Chile. Those would remain under a Joe Biden administration. But I think the difference from a technology perspective, the Trump administration has not really focused on expanding the technology portfolio in the United States in terms of from a federal government perspective. What the Biden administration would do would bring back a lot of the staffers from the Obama administration. Many of these staffers, and there's hundreds of staffers, left their jobs in Silicon Valley to work for the Obama administration. We think something similar would happen under a Biden administration. And though we have close ties already with Chile from a technology perspective, a Biden administration would greatly accelerate the technology advancements.
Okay, thank you. I have another question we have here is, what do you think is going to be or will have a bigger impact? The generation of data, the management of data, cybersecurity? I mean, if you can talk to our students today, would you recommend for them to study informatics, communications, engineering, or what's the best way to be inside this innovation world?
Well, I know in the United States, there has been a large proliferation over the last 5 years in data analytic programs that are that are devoted to data analytics in our colleges and universities. And of course, key to data analytics is cybersecurity. So they're blended into one program here in the United States. So it is, you mentioned data management. It is management and analytics. So, and management also has data management can also be considered cybersecurity. So it's cybersecurity and data analytics blended into one.
Thank you. Ok, entonces David nos recomienda, ¿no es cierto?, especializarnos en el análisis de data y en ciberseguridad. Ahora, okay, we have another question from Walter Fernandez. He says, are there any geographical capabilities that Chile could take advantage of in data management?
Are there any geographical locales? Absolutely. In terms of, I believe there are probably regions within Chile where energy costs are not that high. And so, and the climate is right to invest in supercomputers for high performance computing. I know you are the global leader in terms of astronomy and astronomy data. And that is a huge amount of data, but you're also a global leader in terms of Earth observation. So I think there is opportunity. Maybe it's Alejandro, maybe it's in Concepcion to have a anchor tenant like a Microsoft invest in creating a hub, whether it's in Concepcion, Santiago, or another locale, to focus on supercomputing and high performance computing.
Ok, thank you. Interesante, nos ve, ¿no es cierto?, con ventajas comparativas, por supuesto, en astronomía, lo conocemos, y en el tema de los supercomputadores. Es un tema que podríamos trabajar también en Chile, dice. Hay otra pregunta de Martín Cruz. Dice, la voy a leer primero en español. Hola David, muchas gracias por tu presentación. Estuvo muy interesante. Como tú dijiste, los satélites son muy importantes para el desarrollo de nuestra vida. ¿Cómo crees que se deba desde Chile enfrentar el hecho de que exista basura espacial orbitando la Tierra, corriendo el riesgo de que se destruyan dichos satélites? Okay, David, the question from Martin Cruz Araneda. He says, thank you for your presentation. And then, as you said, the satellites are very important for the development in our lives. So how do you think we can face from Chile the fact that there's a lot of space debris orbiting the Earth and risking the life of those satellites? Can we do something from Chile?
The United States has agreements with about 130 nations, including Chile, for what's called space situational awareness. Because of the locale of the astronomy telescope in the Andes, I believe it's in the Andes, you have a unique capability to see a wide swath of the sky, and those capabilities, and I believe it's probably already in place, an agreement between the United States and Chile to rely on those capabilities for space situational awareness. I agree with you. With the advent of these companies that want to launch thousands of satellites, and have thousands of satellites in orbit, space debris is going to be a huge problem. We almost had a collision last week between two satellites, and it's going to be increasingly important to get that problem under control. Right now, it is one of the top issues in the United States in terms of the space industry.
Ok, thank you. Básicamente, ¿no es cierto?, hay programas de vigilancia o monitoreo de basura espacial en los cuales hay convenios entre Chile y Estados Unidos para hacerlo, y sobre todo con algunos observatorios se toman imágenes y se tratan de descubrir, ¿no es cierto?, objetos que pueden afectar la vida de los satélites en general, pero no hay mucho más que hacer, sobre todo por lo que dice David, con las intenciones de grandes compañías de poner grandes constelaciones de satélites alrededor de la Tierra. Hay que ver qué se puede hacer con eso. Ok, hay otra pregunta de Ricardo Sáez, que básicamente dice, considerando la intención de establecer colonias humanas en la Luna y en Marte en el futuro próximo, ¿no es cierto? Le gustaría saber si existe alguna investigación y desarrollo de proyectos para facilitar la transmisión de data entre la Tierra y esas colonias potenciales. So, David, another question from Ricardo Sáez. He says, considering the intention of establishing human colonies on Mars or the Moon in the near future, okay, I would like to know if there are research and development projects to facilitate the the transmission of data between Earth and those potential colonies?
So there are companies that are already speaking to NASA about satellite communications from the moon. So there will be the transmission of data back and forth. It won't be we're a long ways off from a colony per se. There will probably be a R&D facility, quite like you have in Antarctica. There'll be a R&D station at the moon. But that will have to have pretty robust satellite communications. And I know that a number of companies have started to speak to NASA.
Thank you. Ok, sí, ¿no es cierto? Menciona que hay
¿Te puedo decir algo, Rodrigo?
una serie de compañías trabajando en el tema. Sí, Alejandro, dilo.
Que de hecho NASA dio un contrato a Nokia ayer o antes de ayer por $14 millones para empezar a desarrollar el Wi-Fi o el 3G de la Luna. Son cosas que parecen más lejanas de lo que realmente son, pero hay distintos pasos para ir habilitando las misiones.
Perfecto, gracias Alejandro. Sí, también habíamos escuchado en uno de los seminarios que tú organizaste, por ahí que se hablaba también del tema de que las comunicaciones van por el lado de la comunicación vía láser, ¿no es cierto? Óptica, y es un tema que se está estudiando, sobre todo para poder apuntar el láser, ¿no es cierto?, desde el transmisor al receptor. Pero
Sí.
se está generando información y tecnología a ese respecto. Gabriel Celis says, thank you for the presentation, David. It's very interesting, everything. He thanks also the Colegio Ingenieros. And I have another question. What do you think, David, about Internet? Internet, do you think it's going to remain as the only web around the world, or do you think it can be another one? I mean, to support or more secure or something like that. What do you think about it?
Well, let me first start talking about the 5G plans in Chile. We were briefed by Minister Guidi when now about a year ago when we were in downtown Santiago. I had 3G. So I think 5G is probably very ambitious, but you can get a lot done between 3G and 4G. And so 5G is something definitely to aspire to. And I would say that in those cities that have colleges and universities, if you want to do adequate R&D, you have to have 5G connectivity. But in terms of a different internet, I know that there have been discussions about the Chinese having their own internet, the Russians having their own internet, and then the rest of the world having their own internet. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I don't know if there's going to be something different than the internet. But we've been surprised before by technological innovation.
Ok, thank you. Ok, David nos decía que sí, hay posibilidades de que haya otras internet, pero bueno, hay que ver lo que pasa con el desarrollo de las redes 5G y cómo nos va con la ciberseguridad y el desarrollo de otras internet en China y en Rusia. Le quiero hacer una última pregunta, David, que es relacionada a cómo ve la participación de Chile en el futuro de esta carrera de datos. David, how do you see the future of Chile? How can we go into this race for data management, and how can we collaborate with you or make a society, or how can we be part of the technology advancement that your enterprises are doing in the United States?
Well, first talk about an observation I had when we were in Chile, Chile and the Air Force held a Chilean Space Day. And I was fortunate enough to talk at the Space Day, and I looked out at the crowd, and there was a young engineer, and he was wearing a t-shirt. Now the t-shirt said NASA on it. We need to change the mentality in the engineers. We need a t-shirt that says a Chile on it, something that aligns with Chile's space ambitions. We need to brand the Chilean space program for the Chileans. That young engineer, I was thrilled he was wearing a NASA t-shirt, but there needs to be a branding campaign in Chile so that the Chilean engineers affiliate themselves with the Chilean space program, not with NASA. So there's that thought. In terms of cooperation, I don't think companies within the United States, the private sector in the United States, the various government agencies in the United States like NASA, NOAA, and the Department of Defense understand the full depth, breadth, and scope of the Chilean space capabilities. And as I mentioned at the very first time we had a discussion, Rodrigo, I see this relationship as a two-way street. It's not just American companies partnering with Chilean industry to do projects in Chile. It's also Chilean companies and entities teaming with American companies who do business in the United States. So one of the activities that we will be putting in place in the very near future is what we call matchmaking. I will have a handful of American companies on a webinar. Chile will provide a handful of Chilean space experts and companies and universities. And it will be a back and forth in terms of so that each side can understand the capabilities, but more importantly, the opportunities. Once we have that private sector to private sector discussion, then, and that will be internal, we'll have a public event and we will invite the US government and the US public to attend. And during that public event, Chile will be able to brief on its space capabilities.
Okay, thank you. Entonces tenemos que creer un poco más en nosotros, ¿no es cierto? Que las camisetas digan Chile, no NASA, eventualmente, y por supuesto generar instancias de colaboración, no solo en el sentido, como decía, que vengan compañías de Estados Unidos a trabajar con los chilenos, sino que nosotros vayamos a trabajar con los estadounidenses también. Tengo una última pregunta, Manuel, para David, de Wilfredo Mendoza. Nos dice una bonita presentación y pregunta qué estrategias se usan en Estados Unidos para evitar la migración del trabajo hacia las compañías privadas y si esto podría ser usado en Chile. Entiendo que es desde el gobierno hacia las compañías privadas. Okay, David, we have one last question from Wilfredo Mendoza. He said, "Hi, David, nice presentation. What strategies are used in the US to avoid the migration of labor to private companies? Could these strategies be used in Chile?"
So the immigration of labor to private industry. It's been, quite frankly, it's been tough under the current administration. If there is a new administration, international workforce talent coming to the United States, the process will be a lot smoother and will happen a lot quicker than it is right now. And there will be an opportunity for Chileans to start working for technologies companies in the United States and start working for these companies relatively quickly.
Okay, thank you very much. Bien, estamos en la hora, así que voy a agradecer a nuestro distinguido panelista David Logsdon por acompañarnos esta tarde y dejarnos esta información y la esperanza, ¿no es cierto?, y la promesa de poder interactuar con tecnología y con empresas norteamericanas en el futuro próximo. So, thank you very much, David, for being with us and answering our questions. I hope we will be talking more in the future and creating more collaboration between our countries. And thank you very much again. So see you then.
Thank you for the opportunity. Muchas gracias, mis amigos. Thank you again.